you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Matt Ohayon with you on this rainy, wet, dreary Friday evening. It's the Sick Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to your weekend. Let's get things going. Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by Bittt Tibi beer, brewed in Quebec and a winner of a dozen international awards. Bittt Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Bittt Tibi, embrace your true nature. We're also brought to you by Playground. Discover a world of luxury at Playground. Explore their new 30,000 square foot expansion with thrilling games, gourmet dining, and live entertainment located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes away from downtown Montreal. Playground. Experience the strip without the trip. And by sportsbuffshop.com. Shop all your sports licensed lifestyle apparel, including hoodies, caps, and tees of your favorite teams of all major sports leagues at sportsbuffshop.com. And use code SICK10 for 10% off all their items. And by Manta Sleep, the only mask designed and optimized for the deepest sleep possible and sleep in any environment. 100% blackout for deeper sleep, infinitely adjustable for a personalized fit, absolute comfort. Visit Manta Sleep and use code SICKHABS for 10% off. So that's Manta Sleep, new sponsor. All right. Okay. So nothing basically has happened in the world of Canadiens in the past week, expectedly so. It's the second week of August. We're still a ways away from the golf tournament, but don't worry, because I still have things to talk about and maybe even have some things to get off my chest. Not on a personal level with this man, because he is so kindly joins me every Friday evening, as he usually does, Mr. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, how are you?
I'm okay. Dry in the house, thank God.
Dry. Okay, good. I hope you're dry, because for our listeners that are not in Montreal and our viewers not in Montreal, we are now dealing with the remnants of hurricane. Is it hurricane or tropical storm Debbie?
Yeah.
She's being a Debbie. She was big Debbie Downer today. So thankfully for festival goers of Il Sonique, such as myself, Friday is not on the docket. There is no Friday, not like Osheaga, because if it was Osheaga this week, I would not like to be out there now.
No, not at all. It's I was supposed to play in a golf tournament this morning. That got rained out, but it's just miserable out there.
Yeah, it's awful, and it's hey, it's going to clear up for the weekend though. Looks like a good weekend ahead. Exactly. And what better way to start it than with us? All right, Stu. So I remember last week we were talking about Patrick Laine a lot, and we said, imagine if by this time next week, being now, the Canadiens had pulled off a trade for a top six forward. Well, they didn't. But let's run with that assumption, because we both think that there is one or two more moves to come, bringing an outside player in to this organization before the season starts. But let's play the hypothetical game today. Let's imagine that the Canadiens are going in with the roster and players that they currently have. What I want to know is, we know that there'll be not a bottom feeding team, but they're not going to be much better than they were last year. But let's go individual wise. I want to talk about the top line. I want to talk about the second line. We're going to touch on a lot of players here. Let's start with Nick Suzuki, because he has made steady progression every year since he's been on the Canadiens. Yeah, I think it's clear. Linear. He's increasing points. He hasn't missed a game in God knows how long, and he's just been doing fantastic. How much better, points wise, can he get?
Before last season, I could see Nick Suzuki being a 30-goal scorer, and now he is. He's got 33 last season. I didn't think of him as a possible 40-goal scorer, but I'm not ruling that out now. How he played last year, and especially now with Caufield and Slafkovsky playing on his line, they can't just focus on one guy, right? It used to be they could focus on Caufield. They knew Suzuki was going to get him the puck and he was going to shoot it. Then Slafkovsky started scoring. Now you got to watch him too. And then Suzuki has got that sneaky shot that he can get away. And we saw it last season, sort of, especially on the power play, looking to pass and then firing it. And he started doing it more and more as the season went on. So for Nick Suzuki, as you mentioned, he's gotten better every season he's played. The last 3 seasons hasn't missed a game since coming into the NHL. But the last 3 seasons, 82 games every season, 21 goals 3 seasons ago, 26 goals 2 seasons ago, 33 goals last season. Plays, power play. He logs a ton of minutes. He takes faceoffs. He's really improved in the faceoff circle also. So I'm not saying Nick Suzuki can score 40 goals next season, but I don't think it's impossible for him moving forward. And that number 1 line, they've got all these guys locked up now, right? They're all locked up for at least 6 more years. And I think there's a chemistry there. They like playing together. They enjoy playing together. And I just really like Nick Suzuki. And one of the things I really enjoy about watching him play, and one of the reasons he can log so many minutes, is he doesn't waste any energy on the ice. He's not like some guys work hard but don't work smart. He works smart and works hard. He doesn't waste energy when he doesn't have to, but he always seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's able to anticipate the play. He's just a really good 200-foot hockey player. I think, if you want to show a young kid how to be a 200-foot center, bring him to the Canadiens game. You don't notice it as much on TV. You notice it more live. Just follow Nick Suzuki when he's on the ice. And you see how many passes he intercepts through the neutral zone, how he anticipates the play so well. So I think he'll improve again next season. I think maybe he doesn't get 40, maybe 35, 36 goals, but there's an awful lot of talent there in Nick Suzuki.
Yeah, I think there's space if Caufield and Slafkovsky play like they did in the second half of the season. I think there's room for him to become a point per game player, maybe even beyond that, because he only missed the mark by 5 points?
5 points, yeah. And the power play got better last season and went on. And I think with Lane Hudson next season, the power play is going to get even better than it was, the more improvement than we saw at the end of last season. And as I mentioned, that's one thing I really noticed about Suzuki. It became so predictable to pass the Caufield, cross ice pass the Caufield. And it worked a lot of times, but the teams were defending it and sort of focusing on Caufield a little more. And last season we saw Suzuki faking that pass and shooting it, or going the other way and going to Slafkovsky. But for Nick Suzuki, I think he's underestimated as a goal scorer, the talent he has to score goals.
I think overall as a player, he doesn't get the respect he deserves around the league. No one is going to make the case that he is up there with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby. No one will make that case because that's just not reality. Yeah. But I think he does have his place in being in 1B conversations of being even just middle of the pack, top line centers. I think he should be in that conversation.
If he's in the conversation for Team Canada with the Olympics. Some people mention his name, and the thing is, usually what happens with these Team Canadas, the Olympics or whatever, they have a lot of centers, right? Like some guys end up playing on the wing, and Nick Suzuki's a smart enough guy that he could play on the wing if he has to. I'm not saying he will be on the Olympic team, but I think he wants to be on the Olympic team. I know he wants to be on the Olympic team. And I think he has something to prove to himself and to others next season that maybe he can be there. So I'm not saying he will be there, but I think he'll be considered. Plus the fact that 200-foot player, I'm sure he can play the wing if you need to put him on the wing. He's smart enough to do that. It's easier to play center and move to the wing than it is to play wing and move to center. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing next season, is just how he's going to have that in the back of his mind. Like he knows the Olympic scouts are going to be watching him.
And, he's been one to put pressure on himself, and he's not one to really fold in pressure situations. And just one more point about Nick Suzuki, back to one of your earlier points, in that I find I talk about this a lot, and it's about players who take up space on the ice. And for a guy that's only 5'11", he's 200. He's listed at 5'11", 215.
Yeah.
He takes up space. Like, he is a noticeable guy on the ice. You know, he just, like you said, just very positionally sound, always knows the right place to be. It's very rare. I think I could count on one hand how many times I've said last season, maybe even the season before that, that was a bad game from Nick Suzuki. I could count on one hand how many times I've said that.
Yeah. And he's a legit 215 pounds. He's a solid guy. Like, most of his weight is waist down, right? The modern day hockey player, his butt, his legs, that's where most of his strength is, lower body. And you see it when he battles for the puck in the corner. You see it when he throws that reverse hit that he likes to use to protect the puck. And it's easy to forget how young he is. You know, he's 24 years old, captain of the Canadiens, all the pressure that comes with that. And he handles it really well. And the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You know, I've met and spoken with both of his parents, and they're very nice people, very down to earth people, very smart people. His dad's a very successful dentist. And so he carries himself with a maturity way beyond his years. And that's the reason why the Canadiens made him the captain. I remember when the Canadiens named Shea Weber the captain, I thought Brendan Gallagher would have been a better pick, because I think Gallagher understood more about what it means to be the captain, both on and off the ice in Montreal, than Shea Weber did. But when they gave it to Suzuki instead of Gallagher, this time I understood, because they're building this team around Nick Suzuki, right? He's the leader of this group. He's in the same age group as all those guys, respected by everybody in the room, including Brendan Gallagher. I remember at the golf tournament when they named Suzuki captain, and I asked Gallagher if he was disappointed. And I'm sure deep inside he was a little bit, but he said, no, not at all. He says, we respect Nick, and this is his team, and we follow him. And he's shown that. He's doesn't speak a lot, but he's one of those guys that when he does speak, people listen. And Bob Gainey was a similar type of leader. He wasn't the guy that was a rah guy in the room, but when he did get up and speak, everybody sat down and listened.
Yeah, it's like that. It's, you know what it's like? It's like when I'm not tooting my own horn, but when I used to work at summer camp, I was the very laid back and very chill staff for all the campers and all the kids, that they knew if they got to me and I yelled at them, they knew, we messed up. We did something wrong. They would listen. It's the same idea with Nick Suzuki. You know, he's not going to say much. He's not disciplining anyone on his team. But like you say, if he has something to say, people are going to listen, because like you said, I mean, I feel like nobody really on the Canadiens, there's no big egos anymore on the Canadiens.
No, there's not. And the saying, men of few words, when they do speak, people listen. I think Nick Suzuki's a perfect example of that. And there really aren't any massive egos in that room that take up a lot of space. I'm not saying Carey Price and Shea Weber were massive egos, but they took up a lot of space in the room. PK Subban, big ego, obviously, and took up a lot of space in the room. But it just seems to be they're a real team. This is a team. There's no real individuals on this group. And Nick Suzuki's a leader of them, and leading by example is a key thing. We see that he never misses a game. His players, teammates see even more. They see what he goes through in the training room. Nobody plays 82 games in the NHL without being banged up. They see what he goes through to be able to play. Talk about Shea Weber, what he went through to get through the playoffs that year when they went to the Stanley Cup final. His teammates saw what he was going through and knew what he was going through. Nobody else did. It's the same thing with Nick Suzuki. And again, at 24 years old, the composure he has, the ability to perform on the ice, the ability to deal with the spotlight off the ice here. And that helps young guys coming in, like Slafkovsky, when Nick can give him some tips about how to, not get too high, not get too low, just play your game, sort of tune out the noise from the outside. And he's gone through it, and he's experienced it from a young age also. And for Nick Suzuki on a team, you see the numbers he's put up and producer on a team that hasn't been very good, right? There's been a one-line team. So the other teams are focusing just on shutting down that one line, and he's still been able to produce, and he's been able to improve every year since he came into the NHL.
So next player on the list is his running mate, his partner in crime. We're going to talk about Cole Caufield, because I find this an interesting one. Now, I am a Caufield fan. However, the thing is that you got to look at results. So so if you look at Cole Caufield, he's just finished his third, we'll call it third full season, even though he got injured in his second year, cut it short, but we'll call it a full one because he's entering his fourth year as a full-time NHLer. So he's going to be 24 years old. Frankly, you know, a lot of people talk about him as if it's like a given that he's going to score 50. And it's just, I don't see that coming to be. Maybe 40 one day, sure. He's yet to score 30 though. You know, he had that in that season that got cut short. It looked like he was going to score 100 goals, but he didn't. So where do the expectations lie on Cole Caufield? Because again, even if they don't bring anyone in, the team needs to finish better than fifth to last, and he's going to be a big part of that. And so where do the expectations lie in terms of performance on his shoulders?
Yeah, if they don't bring in anybody else to help out scoring, forwards who can put the puck in the net, they're going to have a hard time finishing, you know, out of the bottom 8, let's say, this season to have another high pick. They just don't have enough guys who can score, and that puts even more added pressure on Caufield. And as I mentioned before, Suzuki, when you're a one-line team, a lot easier to shut down, right, than if you have 2 or 3 lines that can score goals. But for Caufield, I mean, he had 26 goals in 46 games there 2 seasons ago before he had the shoulder surgery, and he was on pace to score just about 50. And then last year 28 goals in 82 games. I think he should be able to score 30 goals in the NHL in his sleep. The shot he has. Sometimes he gets a little bit too predictable, a high short side. I think goalies caught on to that. I think he's learned from that and become a little bit mix up his shot selection a little bit more. He ended up last season, despite all the struggles he went through, 28 goals, almost hit the 30-goal mark. I'd be shocked if he doesn't score 30 goals next season. 50 is a big number.
Yeah.
Can he ever get there? Maybe. Do I see him doing that next year? No, not with the way this team is right now. I say somewhere between 30 and 40. I think 32, 33 goals would be a successful season for him. Again, 50 is just a big number. But Marty St. Louis spoke so often last season about how Cole Caufield has just become a better all-around hockey player. And he has. He's better defensively. Some people don't put much emphasis on plus-minus stats. I know Marty St. Louis does look at them. He's mentioned to it before. 2 seasons ago, Cole Caufield, when he scored 23 goals in 67 games, 3 seasons ago, he was minus 24. Last season he was minus 4 in 82 games, playing on a team that gave up a lot of goals, right? So he's become more defensively responsible. He's been better away from the puck. But the Canadiens are paying him a lot of money to score goals, right? They're not paying him a lot of money. Nick Suzuki is getting paid a lot of money to be a two-way centerman up and down the ice, do all things. Cole Caufield, they expect Canadiens management, when they give him that contract, you're expecting at least 30 goals out of him. That's what he's paid to do. But having said that, Marty St. Louis turning him into a better hockey player all around will help him, and it'll help him maybe find different ways to score. As Marty St. Louis said, I can't show or teach Cole Caufield to score goals. He knows how to do that himself, but I can help him to get into better positions to have better scoring chances. So that's an ongoing thing with Marty St. Louis. And as I said, I think, Cole Caufield, I forget how young these guys are. Again, pressure that they go through and playing in this market. Caufield's handled it very well. And again, I think I'd be shocked if he doesn't score 30 goals next season. I figure it's going to be somewhere between 30 and 40.
That's where my qualms are, is because 50, like you said, it's a massive number. Not a lot of players that you may think have hit 50 have never hit 50. Yeah. Joe Pavelski, one of the best goal scorers ever, never hit it. I would be, just off the top of my head, I'm gonna go look this up really quickly. So
how many players scored 50 goals in the season in the NHL last season? 4.
Exactly. And who?
69. Sam Reinhart had 57. Zach Hyman had 54, and Nathan McKinnon had 51.
And how about this? The best, if not one of the best, American-born players of all time, Patrick Kane, in his illustrious career, has never scored 50 goals ever.
Yep. And there were 17 players in the NHL last year who scored 40 gols. So 50 is a huge number. So, I mean, if Cole Caufield can score 30, at least that's good. 40, I think, would be a fantastic season for him if he could hit the 40 mark. But I'd really surprised. As I mentioned, the power play should be better. Lane Hudson on the power play gives him another offensive option. I mean, we've seen him at the World Juniors, and we saw the 2 games he played, like the way he creates space, the way he sees the game, the vision he has. He's going to create a lot more scoring chances for the other guys who are on the power play. And Cole Caufield's one of the guys that will capitalize on that.
Hopefully, because, it's just, I have some friends in my circles that they're a little bullish on the Habs, and, they're kind of scarred from the previous eras of, every move they made is a wrong move. And one of them, he had a great line to me the other day. He said, he was talking about Cole Caufield's contract, and he said to me, he goes, and I was being optimistic about Cole, and he goes, this guy, I'm not going to say I don't like him. I like him. However, he's the only 50 goal scorer to never score 30 goals. And I go, that's a great line. That's a good point.
Yeah. But I mean, that season, if he didn't have the shoulder surgery,
of course. Yeah. I mean,
26 goals in 46 games. He was going to score 30 that season if he.
Of course, he would have for sure. And it's just tough because, Canadiens fans, that's another one of what could have been. That's another what could have been for Canadiens fans.
And the other thing last season too, you got to realize he was coming off that shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
Also. So no matter what you're coming off, that's pretty serious. Injury or surgery, especially for a goal scorer and a shooter. So a little while to get used to that. We've seen, Josh Anderson struggled since having that shoulder surgery. Arbor Jackey's now had surgery on both shoulders. Hopefully you can bounce back well from that. But for Caufield, I think last season was a tough season for him, but he still scored 28 goals.
And he's gonna have a full training camp, full off season to train, and that sets a player back. That's something that not a lot of people can realize, and it should slip under the wayside. But
I don't know if you saw the pictures of Nick Suzuki and Caufield at Royal Montreal the other day for the media day for the President's Cup, and you look at Cole Caufield, and you see the muscles in his legs and the way he's built. I probably told you this before in previous podcasts. I was in Vancouver when the Canadiens drafted him, and he walked by me, and he looked like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, he looked like
he came up there about the middle of my chest, and I was looking at him. This kid's going to get killed in the NHL. But you look at him now, it's a different physique. I mean, he's really put in the time in the gym. He's still 5'7", but now he's up to like 170 pounds. He's solid. Like we were saying with Nick Suzuki, solid build, and Cole Caufield also, like so many of the modern hockey players, the weights, the strength is in their lower body, which is how they win puck battles and skating and etc. So Cole Caufield has really physically matured since the Canadiens drafted him.
It's going to make the size of his legs will make 2 people very happy. One of them is Martin St. Louis.
Yeah.
The other one is Taylor. Up next,
Nick Suzuki doesn't buy pants off the rack. Like
no, you can't. You
can't. It's like I remember years ago I played in a charity softball tournament. Raymond Bourque was there, and it was like he was like a freak. Like he had a 32 or 34 inch waist. Let's say a 34 inch waist. Like each of his thighs were 34 inches. Like you look at him wearing shorts. I'm looking at this guy going, that's freakish. Like this guy isn't going and buying jeans off the rack at Walmart or anywhere. Not that he shops at Walmart, but Nick Suzuki's similar, and Cole Caufield. If you go on Twitter, people watching the podcast, you'll find the photos. I mean, his legs it's got impressive legs. And I remember it wasn't that long ago, 2019, he was drafted, and he was a skinny little boy. And the other thing, I saw a picture this week also of Lane Hudson. I think it was at the Bauer camp. And I've mentioned to you previously on the podcast, one of the things that concerned me seeing at development camp a couple of years ago, just how skinny his legs were. And he looks like he's done leg work in the gym. And you're right, Marty St. Louis' legs are still freakish. I mean,
oh man,
he likes wearing shorts, Marty, when he comes to do his news conferences or media sessions with the media after practices. He's usually wearing shorts in his calves. Like it's crazy.
No, listen, it's I see it a lot in runners. The runners that I follow on Instagram, and I just look at their calves and their quads, and I'm freaking out. But then hockey players, a whole other level. I remember there was one picture of Sidney Crosby that went viral. Oh, yeah. There's the real famous one of Martin St. Louis. Yeah. I think it was against the Canadiens when he was on the Rangers. That one was, oh my God. Yeah. I remember the people freaking out about that. But then there was one of Crosby. Yeah. And I remember seeing Crosby in person once, and just his lower body is just, it's insane.
Well, Penguins teammates, his nickname was the Creature, Crosby, because he doesn't look. It's like I was saying with Raymond Bourque, it doesn't look natural. It's like some kind of a freak, just the size of the legs they have. One, I think with Marty St. Louis on the road with the Canadiens, morning skates usually while the other team, the home team, has a morning skate first. You see Marty St. Louis running the stairs in the arena before every, here's your coach, you're a player, and here's your coach running the stairs at the arena before the morning skate every time they're on the road. And he does it at the Bell Center also. So, yeah, Marty looks like, I said to him, I guess it was last year, the year before, and talking about his legs and the shape he's in. I said, you look like you could still play. And he laughs, says, no. And then he winked and he says, maybe the power play.
Well, that's awesome. Because, and listen, in my next life, I will come back and I will be a tailor for an NHL team. It's just that's where that's where a lot of money is. It goes under the radar.
Yeah. And these guys have a pretty good budget for it too. You see some of the suits these guys wear, but it's funny story with that too. Or Jonathan Kovacevic. I did a story last season on suits and how many suits these guys have. And Kovacevic said he had gone suit shopping when he got into the NHL full time and got a salary. He said in the AHL, you just need one suit. You just buy one blue suit and you buy a couple of shirts and change the cars. Exactly. Nobody notices, nobody cares. He says, but with the Canadiens, you see they film the guys walking in every time. It's a bit of a fashion show. So being a tailor for NHL teams would be a pretty good deal to have.
There you go. See, it's not always becoming a doctor or becoming an orange cone developer in manufacturer in Montreal. If you like clothes, if you like suits, get into being a tailor for professional hockey players.
The richest man in Montreal might be the guy who makes those orange cones.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to think so. Next up, you know what? We're actually not, because we spoke about him a lot last week, Juraj Slafkovsky, and it's kind of hard to determine, points-wise expectations, what's going to be, because, we know that Kent Hughes said, you can expect another dip in development, and there's still a lot of unknowns about Juraj Slafkovsky, so I feel like it's hard to put a concrete number on him.
I think 25 goals. I think 25 goals for Slafkovsky would be like 20 to 25. You look at the gradual increase in Nick Suzuki's had. I don't think you're going to go from 20 to 40. But I think if Slafkovsky can score 25 goals next season, I'm sure his personal goals are higher than that. I'm sure he wants to get 30. But if he can go from 20 to 25 next season, stay healthy again. He played all 82 games last season after only playing 39 in his first season. I think that would be a good stepping stone for him moving forward.
You know what I would be interested into seeing from Juraj Slafkovsky is I find he dishes the puck a lot more than you would expect. I want to see how often he's unleashing that shot next year from start to end, because the shot, we started to see it come on, obviously, near the end of the season when he went on that amazing run. But I want to see what he can do with that shot start to end, ripping 5 shots at the net per game. Not necessarily on net, but at the net per game. I want to see what that could translate into.
Yeah, I think part of that is just being the young kid and wanting to feed your line mates, right? You're the young kid there. You want to pass it to Suzuki, or you want to pass it to Caufield especially. And, there's a lot of talk last season about Mike Matheson not passing enough to Slafkovsky on the power play. And I think one of the reasons maybe he went to Caufield instead a lot of times is there were times he would give Slafkovsky the perfect setup for a one-timer and he would pass it. Or but instead of one-timing it. So once he does start one-timing those, he's got a wicked shot. I think it's just a case of, we're talking about the age. He's only 20 years old. I think it's, you're playing with older players and Suzuki, and you want to give them the puck. You don't want to sort of hog it to be shooting all the time. But once he starts unleashing that one-timer, and we saw it at the end of last season on the power play more often, him unleashing it more often. And as a result, we saw Matheson feeding it to him more often on the power play too for the big one-timer.
So again, it's just going to be very, very interesting to see what he can do next season, start to end, healthy, and just having a full training camp and a full off season to get his body right and do all that. I think it's going to do wonders for these young guys, because the older players, they know what they got to do for maintenance, but especially the guys coming off injury. Speaking of injury and coming off of injury, very lucky that the injury happened. So we could say that the timing of the injury was lucky. When you're going to suffer a torn ACL the last thing you want is for it to happen near the end of the season where it affects next season, which is what we spoke about Caufield, having a full off season to get your body right, train and grow and put on some muscle. Kirby Dach is a very, very interesting player because I remember the first game of the season, he looked like he was going to dominate this year. It looked like he was going to push Suzuki down the lineup and he was going to be the number one center just off of one game. So Kirby Dach, I think, from your second line center and a third overall pick, I know he's coming off a pretty serious injury, but I think conservatively, I want to say 50 points. Reality wise, I want to see 60 from him.
Yeah, I mean, if he can stay, the big question is can he stay healthy? I mean, this goes back to his days in Chicago with the broken wrist and the knee injuries, and that knee injury he had last season. That was a major, serious knee injury. That's like a full year recovery. I mean, we're going to see a training camp if he's fully recovered. He was skating already before last season ended, which is a really good sign.
Yeah,
but that's a really tough injury to come back, and that's more of an NFL receiver injury, right? As opposed to a hockey player injury, and it's tough. I remember talking with my own doctor at an appointment not long after Doc was injured, and we were talking about it. And he was saying that's a tough. Like he said, for me, like if you had that injury, he said you'd be happy to be able to walk a golf course without having pain in the future. Obviously, I'm a lot older than Kirby Dach, and he's a professional athlete. But it's there's no guarantee you come back from that 100%, right? I mean, obviously Kirby Dach has the best surgeons and medical teams around him and full time. Again, you hope for the best that he can come back and be close to the same skating wise he was before the injury. That's a huge injury. It's still a question mark for him coming into this season. Can he stay healthy? And if he does stay healthy, what impact is that knee surgery going to have on him? Like how much is he maybe going to lose in his skating stride, or how much is going to be in the back of his mind when he goes in to get hit? Because it wasn't that big of a hit, right? Yeah. It was an awkward hit more than anything. So for him, I think the goal, if Kirby Dach can play 82 games next season, and even if he gets 35 points or 40 points, I think that's just staying healthy. That's the key for him, is he's just got to show that he can stay healthy, because the talent's there, his ability to hang on to the puck, is big, rangy guy. He's got size. He's everything the Canadians need to help their forward position. I mean, they're saying earlier they need to score more goals. He can help with that. But I think the main thing with him is stay healthy. Like even if he doesn't produce, say the first 20 of the games of the season, he has like 5 or 6 points, I wouldn't be panicking. I would be just okay, he played 20 games, he didn't get hurt. I think that's the key for him, is just to come back, be healthy, regain confidence. I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's wondering if his knee is going to be what it was before. So I think that's the key for him, just to start the season, just to be able to stay healthy and move forward from there.
Well, I'm not a physio, a doctor, zero. I failed science in Sec 4. Fun fact for everyone. But what my thing is that when it comes to, because we say it's much more of a football injury, is it's more concerning, when a football player, they tear their ACL, then they come back and then they tear it again. That's when it really gets concerning. If it's one knee injury, again, like we say, these guys are professional athletes. They're getting the best treatment in the world and, rehabbing 8 hours a day, which is probably why Kirby Dach was able to skate at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So I think considering it's not necessarily a hockey injury, it's not like, ooh, we got to worry about his knee. I think the last player on the Canadiens to have that knee injury, it may have been Andrei Markov. That's how not often it happens in hockey. So I think the knee is okay. It should be okay, especially if he was able to skate. Like you said, just stay healthy. I guess if you're looking for positives when it comes to Kirby Dach, is that none of his injuries were connected to each other. Yeah. So it's not a recurring, wrist, and then, all of a sudden he can't shoot the puck anymore because his right wrist is as we say in Yiddish, verkackt. So at the very least that. So what I want to see is, even, dial it back, even from a non-points perspective, just take up the space that you took up on the ice, because man, it's almost impressive to watch him with the puck when it was at the end of 2 seasons ago and at the beginning, that first game against Toronto. Impressive to watch him with the puck.
Well, his ability to carry the puck through the neutral zone, come over the blue line, and then cut left or cut right or open space for his wingers going to the net, right? So, the first line's set now. You got Suzuki, Caufield, Slafkovsky there. The second line, Dach and Newhook, and at this point, Joshua Y probably is, to me, the guy who's going to be starting the season on that line, unless Kent Hughes does indeed make another trade to acquire a top 6 forward. But Kirby Dach has the ability to make the players around him better, right? He has the ability to open up space. Carrying the puck through the neutral zone is so important in today's NHL. Zone entry, he's capable of do that, and then open up space for his players. And he's a solid two-way player too. I mean, he's back checks hard. He's good in his own zone. Needs some work on face-off still, but he's going to be a big key to what the Canadiens can do. I mean, he is like adding another top 6 forward since they only had him for 2 games last season. As I mentioned earlier, they need at least one more top 6 forward, in my opinion, to have any hope of not finishing in the bottom 10 in the NHL standings next season. But Kirby Dach is a key guy moving forward. And for him, it's so, Bell Center, you walk into the press box, you come down the thing, and players, when you go through the door, injured players sit to the left, just as we go through, and the media guys, we go to the right. And you see him sitting there. He had his regular seat, right? The first seat right there, you walk in, you'd see him sitting there every single game with a rotating cast beside him of other injured players. But just imagine how difficult that must be, especially for a young player, every single game. Just sitting there watching your teammates, not being able to go on the road with them, missing out, being hurt in the NHL, it can be lonely, especially when the team goes on a road trip. You're just he's going to Brossard, doing his therapy, and then going home, doing whatever he does. He can't do much, right? You got a bum knee, watching the games on TV. So just trying to be around the team. And that's like Marty St. Louis talked about last season, how he had him sit in on coaching video sessions and planning things just to keep him feeling like he was involved with the team and helping him learn a little bit more about, what goes into the process of game planning, et cetera, with the coaching stuff. So they tried to make him feel part of the team as much as possible. But, hockey players will all tell you, when you're not hurt, when you are hurt, you don't feel like you're part of the team. You're not in the room between periods, or you're not part of the team. So for him, he's looking forward to that as much as anything. I think it's just being part of the team again.
Well, and another good thing, confidence standpoint wise, that he probably didn't have to worry about was that he doesn't really have to look over his shoulder worrying about if he's going to lose his job on the team.
No.
It's not like football or basketball or baseball where, especially football, you get injured, that could be your career. But
and they can cut your contract too and not pay you.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So they ain't cutting him, and he is a part of this team. They signed him to a deal for a reason. They didn't acquire a second line center because they know they have one in him. So that's got to feel good for him. And, just one less thing to worry about. Worry about your body and nothing else.
And the Canadiens will be, I'm sure Canadiens management and Marty St. will be very patient with them next season. I was mentioning first 20 games, just get through the first 20 games healthy. To me, that's the number one goal for Kirby Dach next season. Get through the first quarter of the season without getting hurt. And the amount of points, obviously has no points or 5 points, it's not good, but just get through those 20 games and start building from there.
What injury did he have 2 years ago that held him out in the middle chunk of the season? I remember he was starting to come on at some point with the Canadiens, and then he got hurt. I forget what it may have been, an ankle. I think, or I might be conflating him with Alex Newhook.
Yeah, but it was lower body. So,
well, yeah, there you go. Let's get more vague. Couldn't get more vague than that. Yeah. But yeah, so if it was lower body, then he came back. And then he just kind of picked up right where he left off, which is another thing that could be encouraging for the Canadiens, for Kirby Dach, and for Canadiens fans. Obviously this is a way more serious injury, but he has that ability to just, seemingly pick up and like nothing happened. Mm-hmm. Next player, we'll do 2 more. Next player is going to be Alex Newhook, because again, kind of like a lot like Kirby Dach's first season with the Canadiens, it was a good start. Then he tapered off, then he got injured, and then he came back and then just, couldn't stop scoring It seemed like at times. So Alex Newhook, where do we see him expectations wise if the Canadiens want to improve?
Yeah, well, a lot of it's going to depend on Kirby Dach to stay healthy, right? Because I think Alex Newhook's going to play on a line with him. Newhook had 15 goals in 55 games last season. The season before, he had 14 in 82 games with Colorado. I really liked Alex Newhook right from day one of training camp last season. When they were having scrimmages, he stood out. His speed, his vision, and his work ethic. He has Brendan Gallagher work ethic. And I asked him about it at one point last season, and he said, when he was a kid, his dad didn't care how many goals he scored in a game or what he did. He always, when he got in the car, he would say, "Were you the hardest working player on the ice tonight?" That was all his dad cared about. Be the hardest working player on the ice. And he does that. Like, you watch him, he works really hard. A lot of questions early in the season about his ability to play center. But when he came back and he was forced into the center position because of injuries to Dach, etc., he really improved and he got better as it went along. And the fact he can play center and play the wing really helps. The fact that, if him and Dach are playing on the same line, Dach struggles sometimes on faceoffs. Newhook, they can sort of each go on their strong side type of thing. So I like Alex Newhook. I think the ceiling's pretty high for him. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't score 20 goals next season. I can see him getting maybe 25, 15 and 55 games. He's going to be given a lot of opportunities. And again, a lot of it depends on Kirby Dach. Can he stay healthy? And do the Canadiens get another top 6 forward to play with him? And Joshua Roy, as I said, right now, I've Joshua Roy penciled in as that top 6 forward. I think they need guys who can score. Joshua Roy can score. He has vision. He has potential. He played for World Junior team. He's just got a lot of ability. Connor Bedard, after the World Junior, he played on the same line with Connor Bedard, and Connor Bedard said he's one of the best players he'd ever played with as far as playmaking and vision. He killed penalties at the World Junior tournament, something he had never done before in his junior career. The Hockey Canada coaches saw something in him that maybe other coaches didn't, had him killing penalties at the World Junior. So he's a really smart hockey player. He has ability to score and produce offense. So as of now, I see that as their second line. I see that with Dach, with Newhook and Joshua Roy. And chemistry is a big thing, right? We'll see how they can feed off each other. But for Alex Newhook, I'd be really surprised if he doesn't score at least 20 goals next season.
So, here's the thing, is that we went through Nick Suzuki, we went through Cole Caufield, we spoke about Juraj Slafkovsky a bit, then we spoke about Kirby Dach, and we spoke about Alex Newhook. They are the 5 most important forwards unless someone else emerges, like a Joshua Roy emerges. But each one of them, I think we're each expecting a minimum of, some of them 30, but 4 others or 3 others of them, 20.
Yeah.
They're not all going to hit that mark, though.
No.
So that's the difficult thing with the Canadiens, is that they're because if they did all hit that mark, I mean, if you didn't make the playoffs, you got one of the worst defensive teams of all time, and you're losing every game 6-5. So it's interesting where the Canadiens can land themselves, because they have the potential, and it just feels like they need one more guy. All this to say, this conversation is just they need one more guy to just kind of round out that top 6, because bottom 6 you could kind of figure out as things go. That's not really of a concern. Plus, you got good players there too for those roles.
Yeah, but I mean, like, after the top 6, the goal production drops off dramatically, right? I mean, there's only 3 guys in the Canadiens that scored 20 goals last season. Suzuki had 33, Caufield had 28, Slafkovsky had 20, and then who finished 4th? Yoel Armia with 17 goals. Who would have predicted that when the season started and he was in Laval? Gallagher had 16, Newhook had 15. He only played 55 games. Then after, Sean Monahan only played 49 games with the Canadiens, were being traded, finished the season 7th in goals, still on the Canadiens, with 13. So, they've got lots of goals from their defensemen. They ranked 4th in the NHL in goals from defensemen, but, it's just the drop off after the top 6. I mean, Canadiens, you hope that, Brendan Gallagher had 16 goals last season, missed 15 games. Can he score 20 again? I think it's possible. I think he can score 20 goals again, Brendan.
Yeah.
He's not going to score 30 again. But after that, Josh Anderson 9 goals last year in 78 games. Like, Jake Evans 7 goals, played all 82 games. It's like, where is the offense going to come from? Christian Dvorak, only played 30 games, 5 goals. They don't have enough guys who can score goals. And at the end of the day, the team that scores the most goals wins. And the Canadiens just need more forwards who can put the puck in the net, which is, again, as we said several times on recent podcasts, is that's why I think Kent Hughes is going to make another deal before the season starts. So at least give the team a chance of possibly being in the playoff run up until late in the season.
Well, that's it, because we're going to see a lot of games against good teams that we saw last year. I went to the game against Colorado last year where I thought the Canadiens were going to get smashed, and they ended up winning, I think 4-2 or 4-3, and then they swept Colorado. In the season series, and they're in a lot of games, but there's just. You look at them, that's on a micro level, but on a macro level, it's just, they're not even close. They're closer, as I always say, organizationally, they are closer to the San Jose Sharks, bottom feeders of the NHL for years past, and then they are the most recent Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers.
Well,
that's just where it is.
The Canadiens just need to work so hard to win. Like, they need to work so hard to win. Montembeault has to play good in goal. Hopefully the power play gets them a goal. Hopefully your number one line proves. Like, every game they gotta. Canadiens don't win 8-1 or 7. Colorado has games like that where they just blow teams out. Right? The Canadiens don't blow anybody out. It's really, they have to work. And kudos to Marty St. Louis. They do work hard. I mean, you can count on one hand the number of games last season maybe the Canadiens didn't show up or didn't have a full 100% work ethic. Very rare. They work hard, they play hard. They just don't have the offensive talent, especially the forward position. They don't have enough guys who can score goals. So it's tough. Like, they got to battle and fight and grind for every win or every overtime loss or everything. Nothing comes easy for this Canadiens team because they're just not good enough to roll over other teams who might be having a bad night. And that's why it's going to be really difficult for this team to have any hope, especially as the luck can change now before the season starts. One big trade could make a big difference, but as the Canadiens sit now, this is not a team that's going to be anywhere near a playoff spot.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think the concerns are not the first month of the season, and the concerns are not the last 6 weeks of the season, we'll call it. Because I remember 2 years ago when everyone was expecting really the Canadiens to be last, they came out, they were a 500 team till Christmas, and then the wheels fell off. So it's the first month you could always hold it together, and you got all your energy, you could do it. Then it's the dog days of winter that really you'll see the real true colors of where this team stands, how talented they are, and what they need moving forward, to complete the roster, really, if that trade doesn't happen. But hey, like we always say, maybe this time next week, we will be talking about a top 6 forward acquisition, Stu.
Yeah, well, and talk about the injury bug also. What the Canadiens have been hit so hard by. Part of that might have to do with just the fact they do have to work so hard to win every game. They got to compete and battle so hard and win puck battles and everything else. So maybe that has something to do with the injuries we see. A lot of it's just bad luck too. I mean, Kirby Dach, as you mentioned, that did not look like anything major when it happened. It was awkward a little bit as he got hit into the boards or into the bench. But the work ethic will be there for the Canadiens this season again. It's another season with Marty St. Louis. The players are becoming more comfortable with his systems or concepts, as he likes to call them. The power play should be better. I'm looking forward to seeing Lane Hudson. I'd be shocked if he doesn't start the season with the Canadiens. So looking forward to those type of things. But again, they don't have the horses right now to the forward position to score enough goals to become a playoff team. But as you said, we'll see. Maybe Kent Hughes has another trade up his sleeve. And say we're August 9th today. Maybe taking a little bit of vacation for Kent Hughes, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But I'd be really surprised, though, if we show up at the golf tournament and this is the team they have.
Yeah, I would be too. I would be too, honestly, because it even feels incomplete. You can't have 2 off seasons in a row going, the best move we made was the one we didn't make.
Yeah, and doesn't
feel right.
They have players like, we've said, Justin Barron has to clear waivers if they want to send them back to Laval. Is there a spot on the Canadiens defense for Justin Barron this season? I don't know where it is. So it's either you're trading other guys to open a spot for him, or you're trading him or packaging him with some kind of deal. You got, Lane Hudson. I'd be shocked if he doesn't start the season with the team. As I mentioned, you got Logan Mailloux. Is he ready to make the jump next season, or is he a guy that maybe they trade? I know there were some reports earlier this week about he could be a possibility in a trade for Trevor Zegras, who I think would be a good fit with the Canadiens as a forward with his age and his offensive abilities. So it's not just the fact they need another top 6 forward. It's also Kent Hughes has a lot of young defensemen and a lot of draft picks. There's a lot of things he can use to put together to make a trade. But it takes 2 to tango, and we'll see if other teams are willing to have that top. You don't get a top 6 forward for nothing. You got to give something up to get.
And it will. Well, that's the fun part about those big trades. They make headlines, and we talk about them for years to come. Unlike the roster of the Canadiens that is incomplete, that is the completion of this podcast. Stu, thank you very much. Stay dry the rest of the night, because by morning it should be sunny. It should be.
Let's hope so.
That's it. So, Stu, have a good weekend.
You too.
All right, that's it for me. That means your weekend has begun. Enjoy yourselves, everyone. We'll catch you next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVita.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.